All right, guys, I want to talk about the hip complex. So a lot of people don't necessarily understand what's going on with the hip complex, the musculature around it. When I go around to certs and when I go to classes, sometimes people ask, oh, how do I take care of this? What do I do for that? A big common theme we see with a lot of people is they feel like their hamstring's always tight and they're always trying to stretch it, yet it never gets any better. So let's try something different and see if we can fix the problem. I've drawn two just kind of comical representations of a human body. So in case you're lost, this side is the back of the bodies, that side is going to be the front. This would be a representation of a correct anatomical position, human. This would be an incorrect one. So if you look, this triangle creates what we call the ilium, the hip complex. I joke and call this our bikini girl picture because it kind of looks like a girl in a bikini. And I drew some dotted lines to show you that the top, the iliac crest, is always going to pretty well sit in the same spot. And then the bottom of the iliac complex just has a nice flat line. This isn't anatomically correct by any means. It's just a graphical representation. So when you get a lot of people who sit down, they sit at their job, they sit in a car, they sit and watch TV, they end up getting really tight in the hip flexors, and they end up being anteriorly pelvic tilted. So if you look, this is the height of the pelvis normally. With a really tight hip flexor, this little thing right here, it's going to have to point the pelvis down or anteriorly towards the front. So normally, we've got this nice, long, happy hip flexor, and it's a little bit shorter now. If you look at the new bottom of the hip complex, it's a whole lot lower than the happy hip complex. We're going to have to get that range of motion somewhere. Unfortunately, for most people, it tends to come from the glute complex instead. So if you look at someone who has the tendency to sit down a lot, who has a tight hip flexor, who is anteriorly pelvic tilted, we tend to see a couple things. We see this really overarching lumbar. It makes it look like people are always sticking out their stomach. And they tend to have like a no butt kind of thing going on. If you look, their butt tends to be flat, and you can't really tell the difference between their hamstring and their glute complex like you can in this scenario. I drew some red on the board to represent what's overactive and what's underactive. If we have an overactive and tight hip flexor, it tends to also come along with a quad, which means subsequently that we have an underactive posterior chain, so glute, hamstring complex, which do tend to be stretched out. Above that, in the lumbar, we have a underactive abdominal section that is also stretched out. If you look, it's a whole lot longer, a whole lot lower than what it is on the correct individual. Then we have a very short and weak lumbar. So none of those things are obviously very good. So what people keep doing is they keep trying to stretch out this already long and underactive hamstring, when what they really should be doing is turning off and lengthening out that hip flexor complex. Low ab, psoas, upper quad, all that good stuff. So you get people who always have those hamstring issues. Let's go ahead and foam roll the quads. Let's hit them with a couch stretch. Let's do the couch stretch multiple times. Maybe they set a reminder in their phone to take care of it multiple times a day. And then we need to teach them how to activate this stuff back here. Glute bridges, hamstring curls, good mornings, deadlifts, all that kind of stuff is going to activate and strengthen the weak musculature to get them a butt and to get them a set of hamstrings that they're looking for in the first place. Once the pelvis starts to tilt up, you're going to see less of this excess lordotic curve. You're going to see less of the presentation of stomach. You're going to see a stronger midsection, and then we can really start to attack ab work and actually get ab work out of it, as opposed to, oh, I feel this in my hip flexors, or oh, I feel this in my back. So again, foam roll, lacrosse ball, stretch the front of the body, hip flexors, quads. Activate with bands, machines, and weights, the backside, and you're going to see a lot more people long-term have a happier life.